Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
I just wanted to give him a hug.
We don't know the extent of his condition yet.
It could be progressive. It could be degenerative.
It could be fun.
No, Brad!
Hey, it's me. I'm back.
Oh my God! Come on!
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show. I'm your host Stuart.
And I'm Andrew.
I haven't done it that way for a while actually.
No,
it felt a
it
bit
sounds
strange.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah. You would think that considering that this is our 4th year anniversary, we have been going on for 4 years now, that would be used to opening up the show. But nope.
Is it not seem every year as well, around about this time, you end up getting a cough of some kind?
Pretty much. I want to get rid of the cold anyway because we're on holiday at the end of next month and I don't want a cold for that. So I'd rather have a cold to last me from now until the middle of September and then just disappear. I know that sounds a bit brash or whatever, but I would still prefer that. And then the week when I'm away on holiday, just have a cold as soon as I come back so I'm cold free for Christmas because I normally have a cold at Christmas as well.
When is it you're away?
End of September.
End of September, okay.
Yes, so I hate the cold. I really hate the cold. Considering what the weather's like and considering what it was like in work, it was like working in a sauna. You would think that it's pretty impossible to get a cold, yet I'm still able to do it. I riddle my body with like every immune system thing possible out there, yet I'm still able to get a stupid cold.
Maybe
but I doubt people.
Maybe it's a superbug.
Oh, please no. I doubt people are actually interested in me having a cold. They're more interested in films that we're looking at on this week's show. And in the cinema section, we have 3 pretty big releases. They are.
Yep, we have the Josh Tranks version of the Fantastic Four. We have Joel Edgerton in acting and directing performance of The Gift. And we also have then another release to round out things with a kind of odd film with I'll just call it Max is what the title. I'll just give it the title. We'll get to it and you'll see just kind of odd when you get to the review.
And in the home release section, we're looking at these films.
Also, actor directing as well in starring with Russell Crowe in The Water Diviner. Liam Neeson is back in Run All Night. British sort of independent science fiction film Robot Overlords. We have comedy, but Stuart will be reviewing it, so as to whether or not it will be comedy. Get Hard, and also with a small indie thriller with I forget the actress name. I'll have to remember now.
Selma Hayek.
Selma Hayek, yes, in Everly.
That's if you can call that a thriller, because it's definitely not a thriller. On top of no, it isn't. On top of that, we have our TV movie of the week, the home release top 10, the UK box office top 10, and some movie news. But make sure you visit the website mondaymovieshow.co.uk because a review has finally appeared on there. After months and months and months of no reviews, all of a sudden, Andrew decided to post a nice review of Fantastic Four. So listen to his review of it, and then go over to the website and check that out.
Yeah,
you can also.
I did get round to write one again because I finally had time to write one, although I don't know how because I haven't had time to do lots of things this week.
Yeah, so what's my excuse? I've never written a review for the site for absolutely ages, so I think I should sort of like book that trend just like you've done and try to write a review. That's try to write a review, air quotes. You can also give us some feedback on Twitter at Monday Movie Show, on Facebook, facebook.com/Monday Movie Show. You can email us mondaymoovieshow@yahoo.com. You can also leave us messages on the live chat in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. A friend of mine at work said he listened to the show last week, but he couldn't find the live chat, so he must be blind. It is in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. Let's kick things off like we always do with movie news then.
Yep. Website Variety has announced that Tommy Lee Jones has been cast and joining the cast of the next Bourne movie, which will have Matt Damon returning to the character of Jason Bourne. Also along for the next movie will be Alicia Vikander and Julia Stiles reprising her role from previous films as well. Paul Greengrass is also confirmed to be back to direct, and not only direct but also pen the script with Christopher Rouse. The movie's got a release date, a very, very kind of early release date, given the fact they haven't started filming yet. It's for July 29th next year, 2016.
That's an impressive cast. Matt Damon, Julia Stiles, Alicia Vikander, Tommy Lee Jones. Just Alicia Vikander was somebody that nobody heard of at the start of this year, and now she's practically in absolutely everything. She made sort of like a big screen debut in a way in it wasn't Ex Machina, it was Testament of Youth, where she was in that, and then Ex Machina came out the week after, and now she's in The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which is out next week, which we'll be reviewing on next week's show, and she's making an appearance in the new Bourne film, and it was just shocking to me to find out that Tommy Lee Jones is going to be in it. I didn't know this news at all, and that's some inspiring casting.
I note though that there's no mention of any of the characters or actors from the last Bourne film, which I know it was an offshoot, but it did exist in the same world. So I would like to see some connection made with that at some point in the film to show, because I think it's the reason that film came about that has allowed then there to be a reason for Jason Bourne to come back. Because I remember at the time when they wanted to do another Bourne film, and both Matt Damon and Paul Greengrass said, well, what reason is there for Jason Bourne to come back? So essentially Tony Gilroy went and did another Bourne film, expanded the universe, and gave them a reason for Jason Bourne to come back. And I like that idea, that they thought, okay, we haven't come up with an idea without setting it up, but we'll use another film and set it up. And I think that worked quite well. For me, the Bourne universe was expanded quite a bit. As much as the last film wasn't a great film, it did add that to the Bourne universe.
I wonder if Joan Allen will return as well, because I like the character as part of Pam Landy in Bourne Ultimatum.
I was wondering that as well, and I was wondering whether or not, because I hope we'd see Edward Norton come, because he does have this kind of this evilness to him when he's playing a dark character like that. But also there's no mention of David Strathairn as well, who was really instrumental in the third one and yet was referenced in the last one, but not really, apart from a very small appearance, didn't make any sort of appearance in it, it was just a reference thing. But I would love to see him come back as well. If Joan Allen does, he should too, because the two of them were kind of at odds through it.
Yeah.
The other big piece of news I've got is two bits of news regarding two of the major studios, yes, not studios. Sony have announced 16 films for their releases in the next couple of years leading through to 2017. This will include at least two more Bad Boys sequels, a Jumanji remake, and the first part of novel adaptation The Dark Tower, which has been in production hell for about 10 to 15 years. The full list is, we've got films that no idea what half these are, but we've got Money Monster is going to be released in August next year. In April next year. The Shallows is going to be released in June. Ghostbusters is being released in July next year, so that's going to be the Paul Feig one. Patient Zero is being released in September. The Magnificent Seven remake is being released also in September. There's a film which has just been titled as Underworld 5 ? The
Next Generation, it's supposedly rumoured to be.
That's going to be an October release. And then in December there's a movie Passengers, which is the movie that they are hoping is going to be all about Oscar buzz. So I don't know, I don't have the details there, but I know it was a film which is supposed to be something that's maybe got potential worthiness to it for the Oscars for acting and for the performances. The Jumanji release is going to be a Christmas release, going up for the Christmas Day release in 2016, and then in January 2017 is when we'll get Dark Tower. Resident Evil 6 ? Supposedly the last Resident Evil film is also going to be at the end of January. The first Bad Boys movie is going to be, the first new Bad Boys movie is going to be at the end of the middle of February. March, there's going to be a film called Baby Driver. We're going to get a Barbie film in June 2017.
Can't wait for that one.
We're finally going to get our Uncharted movie. For anyone not aware of that, this is the character from the Uncharted arcade games, which has had, again, a bit of a production hell history. And that's going to be at the end of June. There's another movie, The Lamb, which may be an animation film in August of 2017. And the list rounds out with, right at the very end, in 2019, is the one they've actually confirmed this, is going to be Bad Boys 4.
That's a lot of films. Just to expand on a couple of them, Sony originally had the Uncharted film out on June 2016, so next year for June. But because of the fact that the director has left, the fourth director, it's been pushed back to the next year, so 2017, and so they need to find the fifth director to direct the Uncharted film. Five directors.
It's having so many problems. It's like the Crow remake. It's had so many people go through it, actors and cast and everything, and which I've apparently now not heard this anywhere officially, but I did see it the other day that because of Relativity Studios filing for bankruptcy, that has now been put on hold indefinitely.
I would have thought that would have affected more of Resident Evil rather than the Uncharted films, considering that Resident Evil sort of like went through Constantine films and help from Relativity Media and all that stuff as well. So I'm surprised that it has affected. I think it's just down to the fact that nobody wants to direct a video game movie, to be honest. So it doesn't bode well for the World of Warcraft movie, which is out next year. So it's just understandable from that point of view. But the Resident Evil one, they have Paul W.S. Anderson has said that it is the last one. I think Milla Jovovich just finished done with the character of Alice now. She's pregnant at the moment. Well, she's just had a new child, and the fact that she's gone straight into filming this. So after giving birth, she's gone back to play Alice, and I think she realises that she has become a bit too old now to play the character of Alice and to do the stunts that she normally does in the films, and it's about time that they finish the series off. So yeah, it's understandable.
It's been, was it 2001 the first one? So that's 14 years?
Something like that, yeah. So 7 films over that period of time. It is insane. Bad Boys 3, that just came out of the blue. Bad Boys 3 and 4.
Yeah. Well, you wonder if the fact of that, somebody maybe begged Sony, please give Michael Bay something else to do other than another Transformers film, because he has got another film coming out soon, which I have to admit has got me interested. I forget the name of it. I have to look it up actually. But he's got a new sort of, not a Transformers film. It's another sort of war movie kind of thing, but it's one that actually does look pretty good.
Yeah, and so the other one surprising for me is Jumanji. I didn't even know that there was a remake in production for Jumanji. So that's the other one that's surprising me. And Christmas Day, yeah, you just push it up an extra day. It'll be Boxing Day for us. So there is that. I'm thinking the film you might be thinking of is 13 Hours.
Yes, 13 Hours. It's one which is about basically a bunch of sort of special black ops kind of guys, ex army, what they call them again, mercenaries that are sort of working for the US government, end up sort of going against their orders to help defend and help evacuate a whole bunch of diplomats and such from a US site, and it does look, actually, the trailer, I mean, as much as the trailer can be very misleading, but the trailer which I saw last week actually did impress me, and then it came up saying, oh, Michael Bay. I was like, you know what, it actually does look like it might suit his style.
Yeah, and it's understandable that they haven't announced anything for 2018, because my guess is some of the new IPs that they're releasing over the next year to 18 months, they're going to see how well they do and probably pencil in sequels from them for the 2018 releases anyway. So, but looking all the way to 2019 is a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, though technically as well in that time they have got as well with Marvel, they have got the Spider-Man film, which it technically is a Marvel film, but Sony will be getting a big chunk of the profits for that.
Yeah, and just sticking with Ghostbusters, that leads perfectly into my first piece of news. Is according to the Hollywood Reporter, Bill Murray will be making an appearance in the new Ghostbusters film after being spotted heading to the set. His role has not been confirmed just yet. This is sort of like annoying a lot of Ghostbusters fans, because Bill Murray adamantly said that he will not be in the new Ghostbusters movie or take part in any Ghostbusters film, because that was the whole point of trying to get Ghostbusters 3 out there. We wanted some of the old cast to come back, and it spent so much time in development hell, to be honest, when he was going, yeah, we're going to do it, no, I don't want to do it, and yes, no, that he's now going, by the way, I am going to be in Paul Feig's one, but by the sounds of things, it's only a small role. It's still annoying, though.
Well, I'm just thinking of that. I'm not a massive Ghostbusters fan, as you know, as I said before. But the thing I'm curious about is if they're going to have him appear in it, is he going to be playing himself or maybe a ghost of himself? Is the way it sounds. It's the kind of corny thing that's just right down Paul Feig's alley, and that's the thing I think would actually really annoy a lot of fans if that happened.
Yeah, it's annoying a lot of people because he has turned that he's going to appear it in the first place. Well, we could have had, we might not have had the uproar regarding Paul Feig's version of Ghostbusters and the all-female cast if he decided to just stop being a moaning baby and turn around and say, yeah, we'll do a Ghostbusters 3 then. Instead of adamantly saying yes and then instantly changing to no, and then constantly doing that and annoying fans, and then all of a sudden Paul Feig is the one attached to Ghostbusters 3, well, technically Ghostbusters 3, but the next Ghostbusters movie turned into all-female, the uproar here, and then he just comes out and says, by the way, I am going to be in it. That's really annoying, that.
But not very unusual for Bill Murray.
He's an annoying person anyway. From what I've heard in interviews, he's a nightmare. He's an absolute nightmare. He's one of these kind of people who, if he just does not like you, he'll instantly just walk out or say something really nasty to you and then walk out. So he's supposed to be a really hard person to interview, which I'm glad I'm not in that kind of position to, because I just would not like him. More news. Phil Lord and Christopher Miller have confirmed that they will only produce the follow-up to 22 Jump Street, surprisingly titled 23 Jump Street. The reason is down to Lord and Miller being way too busy with other projects.
So this maybe not being a good thing.
Probably get Channing Tatum to direct it.
By the way, I mean, I think has he directed already something? I think he has, hasn't he?
Wasn't he involved? I know he was heavily involved with the last two Magic Mike films.
I know he was involved as a writer. I think he wrote like heavily the first one. I don't know about the second one. I know he produced. I'm not sure if he done anything more than that or anything though.
He has not directed anything. He's got 9 production credits, but no direction credits. So you never know. It could be him. He could be the director of it.
But the question is, does that mean is there going to be, because there is a style to the two Jump Street films. It's very obvious, very clear. If you watch them both, you get in just those two films, you get a style or a sense of the style of those directors, which won't necessarily work with someone else.
Yeah, but Phil Lord and Christopher Miller are producing it anyway, so they're going to be there to help him. So it could be just going to Channing Tatum. He's directing it, but they've still got Lord and Miller's help. So you never know. We'll find out anyway who's directing it. There's no word who's actually going to be on it. There wasn't even supposed to be a 23 Jump Street because of the parody at the end of 22 Jump Street. But by the sounds of things, I really hope they don't go down the 23 Jump Street / Men in Black crossover thing that they were seeing.
I actually hope that they stick to the story that was shown very quickly in the 23 Jump Street spoof ending. Yeah, it's only about a 20-second thing you get at the end, but you see what it is. It's like I think was that one medical school?
I don't know. They just explored every single avenue in all of them at the end of that.
Yeah. That one looked though like it could be, as the further along they went, the more ridiculous they got. Imagine if they did get to Jump Street, whatever it is, Jump Street 27 or whatever it is, and then they bring in Seth Rogen instead.
Yeah. And the 46 Jump Street, they're in old people's homes, and they look like the extras from the film Red.
Yeah, I don't think it'll quite get to that, but we'll see. I mean, the Fast and Furious franchise has gone up to 8 films now, so...
You never know. More news. Hansel and Gretel 2 has found its director in Bruno Avallone after the original director Tommy Wakola stepped away from the project.
Okay,
You'll not notice that name because he's never directed a film in the past before. He's done adverts for Audi and other car companies, and he's mainly an advert director, so this will be his directorial debut, which definitely doesn't bode well considering that Tommy Wakola's first English film was Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, which is a terrible movie.
It's not entirely terrible.
Terrible.
It is a very MTV movie, so this is going to possibly work for it, because if they get someone who's very used to doing flashy, quick editing and things like that for adverts, then they might work very well for it.
Yeah, no. A Nightmare on Elm Street is set for the remake treatment again. David Leslie Johnson is set to pen the script, and now he's worked on The Walking Dead and Red Riding Hood.
That was a terrible film.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Yeah,
So-
you lucked out that one.
Yeah, I definitely looked out on that one. But why remake it again? We all know what happened with the Jackie Earl Hurley remake back in 2010. We don't want to see it again. People are going, oh, it'll be fine as long as Robert Englund is going to play Freddy Krueger. If they're remaking it, they're really not going to bring him back to be in the remake unless he just makes a basic appearance in it. And we don't want to see that story again. It'll be like the origin story of Spider-Man. We've had the story told 3 times now. It was told in the first film, it was told in the TV series, and now it was retold in the remake. We don't want to see the story told for the 4th time.
I'd like to see it if they do it again. If they do it again, do it from the wolf's perspective. Tell the wolf's story.
It's just... that joke was horrible.
What?
You said wolf story, so what's a wolf got to do with Nightmare on Elm Street?
Oh, sorry. What am I thinking?
You're thinking Red Riding Hood?
Yeah, sorry. I kind of nodded off during the whole thing about remaking Nightmare on Elm Street again because it's been done too many times.
I better move on because I'm lost now. And final piece of news, it's not actually news, I just saw this before it came on air, is that Zac Efron is in talks to star in the Baywatch film.
Yeah, with The Rock.
Yeah, God.
He's doing Big Trouble in Little China, and then he's doing a movie version of Baywatch.
Yeah, UK box office top 10 then. At number 10 is Bajrangi Bhaijaan.
Yeah, it's this Bollywood film. It's done really well because this is the one that also made it into the US box office in the top 10, which rarely ever happens. And it's doing very well. Don't know anything about it though. Haven't seen it and probably won't, to be honest, because we don't see the Bollywood films.
I keep saying this. We need to watch at least one for the end of the year. And from what I've heard about Bajrangi Bhaijaan is that it doesn't follow down the same tropes as normal Bollywood films. It's not all about song and dance. So that makes me slightly more eager, yet it still follows the thing where they're on for 3 hours.
I was curious about the one a couple of years back. There was with the superhero Indian movie, but I have no idea what happened to it.
Is that Dhoom?
I have no idea. It just seemed to disappear once, because they don't get a big DVD release with sort of widespread DVDs. You'd have to probably go to a specialist store somewhere to get them, within communities that have them. It's not something you're going to get really that much. I think they may have it sort of 1 or 2 or something like that, but not really a good selection of them for you to go and pick in somewhere like HMV or one of the few shops remaining now that there are that you can get DVDs.
Yeah, because the list that we normally have to find out what we are going to be reviewing the week after, we normally use big places like Amazon and Zavi and websites like that to find out what future releases are on Blu-ray and DVD, and we very rarely see Bollywood films on those lists. It's really difficult to get hold of them. There was one film that I was interested in. It was a director who supposedly made the scariest horror film ever, and he challenged people that if they could sit through the entirety of the horror film without being scared, he would give them $10,000. And that was a Bollywood film. He gave the same kind of task for the sequel that he created because he believed that the sequel was more scarier than the original film. And so I would have liked to have seen that one just to be see how scary it really was. I wouldn't have been bothered about the challenge, even though $10,000 sounds about nice, sounds really nice. But they're just eager to see how Bollywood would handle horror as long as they don't add in dance numbers, because then it would be just like watching Thriller. And number 9 is Ted 2.
Believe it or not, still not seen it, and I had a chance.
You don't want to be honest. It'll ruin the taste of Ted. Ted was really funny. This one just rehashes the jokes over and over again. We'll go through number 8 quickly. Secret Cinema: The Empire Strikes Back. Tickets are £75 plus. That's why it's in there still.
Yeah.
And number 7 is New Entry for Hot Pursuit.
I haven't seen it, and I probably won't, given your review of it last week.
Yeah, Sofia Vergara and Reese Witherspoon starring in a buddy cop movie. These buddy cop movies don't work. They think that they're really funny, bringing two females together. Look at The Heat. You know what we thought about The Heat as well. And it's not down to being sexist or whatever. It's just down to be how badly written they are and how unfunny the jokes are. Because the teaming up of them too could have actually been really well done if it was handled much better, instead of falling down to stupid tropes by saying that Reese Witherspoon's character's got a mustache. When she definitely doesn't. You can see that she doesn't. When they go to the things where they're saying Sofia Vergara's character, his age is constantly changing and Reese Witherspoon is constantly dropping in height, that actually works, because it does look like, if you look at them both, the height difference and the age difference is apparent. But jokes about them having false moustaches and stuff, and then lesbian jokes in it as well, that's digging down to the bottom of the barrel, and that's not where you're going to find funny jokes. And number 6 is Jurassic World.
Which is still doing well. It is, and I think it's a perfectly fine sequel. It adds a few little things. It's a good sort of blockbuster movie, is what you kind of expect, and it's deserved to do as well as it has. And it's enjoyable. It's the only thing I do have an issue with is I think that it's very, very edgy for a 12 rating, which is something that's kind of becoming a bit commonplace now. But it's a good film. I really enjoyed it.
And number 5 is Minions.
Still not been able to see this, and I really want to see it.
Sacrilege. You should see Minions. It's still taking £1 million. So that's shown in stupid amounts of sites still in screens. But yeah, that's no excuse of not going to see it. You should see Minions. It's really funny. Don't listen to what Mark and Saxon thought from Following the Nerd. They are completely wrong. And that's not me being biased because the fact that I'm a big Despicable Me fan. I still find Despicable Me 2 better than Minions. But it's still really entertaining. And number 4 is Ant-Man.
Which I have seen, and I actually want to see it again because I did really enjoy it. It is a very low-brow Marvel film. It's not one where the end of the world is nigh, and literally it is a lot smaller scale in that respect, as well as the main character being able to shrink himself down to a man the size of an ant. But it's a different thing because it's a little heist movie. There are little bits of humour, great humour in there from the sort of the co-characters, and it's a film that I actually found it quite refreshingly different from Marvel.
Yeah, I thought Michael Pena was the strongest in the film as well. I thought Michael Douglas was really good.
Michael Douglas was fantastic, and the opening scene literally made me kind of sit up in my chair because I thought, so we've got another Marvel film, which I look forward to, but then with this opening sequence where he was digitally de-aged and looked amazing for what they'd done to him, it actually made me sit up in my chair and go, you know what, they might have something here.
It makes you forget some of Michael Douglas's really awful films, like The Ghost in the Darkness. People are wondering what the hell is The Ghost in the Darkness. Remember the lions?
The lion one, yeah, directed by Stephen Hopkins, I think it was.
Which is a terrible movie. Number 3 is Southpaw, which has actually gone up in the chart.
Surprising, yeah, but not. I mean, it's the thing is, it's a film that. It is a really well put together film. It does have its rough edges and its rough moments. It could do with a little bit of trimming. It could do with a little bit of cleaning up in some respects. But it's a perfectly good film. It is and it all down to this performance really by Jake Gyllenhaal, who is fantastic in it. It is a film that it's a boxing film, and as such, it is limited by what it can do because of within that genre. There's very, very little sort of edgeway for being able to change things up a bit, and it doesn't really. It just does the sort of thing. You've got a typical character who's damaged, has to make himself right, so he goes back to boxing and gets himself cleaned up and everything, and by doing that comes out on top. And it's it's filled with cliches of the genre, but it doesn't sort of disrespect the genre or disrespect those cliches. It just deals with them as they are.
I've got one question for you. It is because the film itself is rated 15. Do you think people who have not grown up with movies like Rocky would actually find more appreciation with Southpaw? Considering the fact that if you're our age, we've sort of had the saturation of these boxing kind of films, or the movies that have got the same kind of ilk, like Warrior and, like I said, Rocky. So people who go to the movie like Southpaw fresh, who say it just turned like 15, do you think they'll appreciate the film more so rather than we do?
I think that they will find it entertaining, but I don't think they'll find it without having seen. Because I don't like the Rocky films. I'm not a fan of the Rocky films. I admit the first one is a good one. I don't like all the other ones. I like the last one. Just Rocky Balboa, the last one that he did, more than any of the other sequels. And I found that I really liked this because of the fact of that this wasn't that just Rocky with another character. Instead, it was actually a film which, because I've seen there's a film called Play It to the Bone, which I really liked and a lot of people didn't like, and it's a film that 15-year-olds will see it and enjoy it. They may not love it, but as long as they're into a good performance, which Jake Gyllenhaal gives, they'll get into it. I would say that I think the actual boxing sequences are not the highlight of the film. They're not the best thing in it. They're not the best sequences that have ever been done for film for boxing. There's definitely been better films with boxing sequences in them and boxing matches in them. But it does have this kind of thing where you have, at the end you have a 12-round match and it goes the 12 rounds and you actually get the full kind of length of the 12 rounds. So there is a whole boxing sequence in it, but it's not necessarily handled as well as it could be. But it's definitely worth seeing. I mean, by that point, you're committed to the film and you're in there.
Do you think Creed will have a better chance than Southpaw?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know, because as I say, I'm not a fan of the Rocky films. If it's done like just a Rocky spin-off, then I think I'll be bored with it. If they bring something new to it, they do something different, then maybe. But if it's just going to be another boxing film that's basically trying to come in on the coattails of the Rocky franchise, I think it'll be boring.
Well, the director of the upcoming Creed, the last film he did, he worked alongside Michael B. Jordan on Fruitfield Station, and I know you didn't appreciate Fruitfield Station as much as I did. I really liked that film, so I'm sort of interested in seeing it because he was involved with that. And Michael B. Jordan is a good actor. Well, that might actually change in the Fantastic Four review, but we'll get onto that after the UK box office top 10, because it's got two more films. So number 2 is Inside Out.
Not seen it.
Okay, so I've seen every single film in the top 10 apart from Southpaw, actually. I do need to see this one. You definitely need to see Inside Out as well. You need to make it a double bill of Minions than Inside Out. Because
when I have time.
They are two fantastic animated films. I would say Inside Out is the stronger of the two because it is Pixar back to their brilliant best. It is exploring a very tough subject for a children's film regarding a girl who's moving to a new place, and we've seen that all done before. But instead of just concentrating on her, it actually concentrates on the emotions that live inside of her and how they change and how they need to grow and manipulate the girl to try to bring her back to her best. And it's fantastic to see a film as imaginative is that, and that's what's so brilliant about it. It's Pixar being imaginative again, rather than retreading some of the same old ground we've seen from Disney films of past. Pixar are at their best when they do something original and inventive, not like including the Toy Story films in that there, but when they do something imaginative and inventive, they can't be beaten. Well, Studio Ghibli can beat them. That's my Studio Ghibli thing for the week. And at number 1 is a new entry for Mission Impossible Rogue Nation.
Yeah, which is a competent, well-handled sequel to the series. I liked it. I like the series, and I like this movie as an addition to it. It's not the best one. The best one was still the last one, which was Ghost Protocol. But this one is a good continuation on from there, and it's not directly, the Mission Impossible films aren't. They lead into the other one, They're not the same story. They are just following this team of people that that have, you know, a mission, they go on and that's it. But there is a connection to the previous ones, there's references to the previous ones, which makes this, I think, a lot more complete than many sequels. The one thing I would say is, though, they have fallen back on trying to make this a little bit more kind of like Bond-ish, and the way you have it more centering around the character of Ethan Hunt more than sort of the team and everyone there. So I think it's a good film. If you like the series, you'll probably find you enjoy it, but I still think that Ghost Protocol is better.
I think it's a series that's losing its way a little bit. I thought it felt tired. By the time you reached the end of the film, it needed an oxygen mask, because it just couldn't hold its breath anymore. It was trying to add too much to the film, and we always look at a film with 3 acts. This felt like it had 4 or 5 of them, and the film could have easily been cut shorter. And there's a lot of tweaking could have easily been done with the film. It's lost its tension as well. And I would like to see it go back to a tense film rather than being very much like a comic book movie, which perfectly leads into the first review of the night.
Yeah, Josh Tranks' Fantastic Four, which he wrote as well as directing. He wrote with Simon Kinberg and Jeremy Slater. It's the story of the Fantastic Four, which is the Marvel property, now the rights cinema-wise and film-wise owned by Fox. It is the movie of the 4 characters: Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, and Ben Grimm, who were introduced to the character of Reed Richards as a young kid. He's developing a device which will allow teleportation, but doesn't realise until he's done it and meets someone else. What he's done is, instead of teleporting to somewhere else in the world, he's teleporting into another dimension, to another planet, which is called Planet Zero in the movie. He is then brought, when he's older, to work at the Baxter Building with the other people there. He meets up with all of them, including the character of Victor Von Doom, and they're all brought together, design this machine and build it. Are then sort of going to be sort of tossed aside, and instead of being allowed to travel through it, they are going to be sort of put aside, and NASA will be called. They decide, though, what we're going to do, we built this, we want to go through it. They break the rules, go through it, an accident happens, and when they come back, they're all sort of exposed to materials and such that mean that they have become sort of, well, changed. Here's a clip.
This is Ben.
What's up? You his lucky charm?
You guys sure you're in the best shape to be doing this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're good.
So, I guess I should come up with something better than one small step for man.
Strap in and get comfy, kids. We're about to make history.
Yeah, or die. Either or.
All right, gentlemen. Hands and feet must remain inside the ride at all times. Don't blow up. Don't blow up.
Oh, yeah, that's what I want to hear before going into another dimension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So once they end up coming back and things go all wrong, they end up with the abilities that you have. Reed Richards, played by Miles Teller, has the ability to stretch his body. His body sort of becomes, his arms and legs become extremely stretched, as we see in the film. We have Sue Storm, who's played by Kate Mara, ends up being able to create force fields and be able to sort of generate invisibility. You have the character of Johnny Storm, her brother, played by Michael B. Jordan, is basically becomes a walking fireball, known as afterwards the Human Torch. And also then the character of Ben Grimm, who's played by Jamie Bell, ends up becoming this sort of gigantic rock monster. And the thing is then, I mean, if you don't know who the Fantastic Four are, you have the basic idea there for it. You should know who they are because they've been around for a while. They've had 2 previous films which are completely different. This is a reboot of that. And the thing is, it's a terrible reboot. It is a awful, boring, horrible rendition of the property, of the characters. The thing is, it's surprising as well because the previous 2 films, you had the first one, which was 2005, so 10 years ago. Then a couple of years later, they did the sequel, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and they're both terrible, but they both get the Fantastic Four is supposed to be a family. They're supposed to be fun. They are kind of like the first family of Marvel, and they're a fun group that you can, you have the whole thing of the dynamic of the family. You have Sue Storm is kind of like the mother, Reed Richards is kind of the father, but he's kind of absentee a little bit because he's always busy with his work and science and stuff. Johnny Storm is the adrenaline junkie idiot who does stupid things because he gets a thrill out of them, with jumps before thinking sort of thing. And Ben Grimm is kind of like the good friend with Reed Richards who turned into a muscle literally, and ends up sort of being this person who is suffering but still ends up being coming to terms with it and all. And none of that is in this film really. The characters are very, very it's even hard to say one-dimensional, because the thing is, there's the character Johnny Storm, who we even have a sequence of him being shown that he's irresponsible. He has a car that he races and actually blows up the engine, then crashes it, but it's just a boring sequence, and it doesn't show any actual. It basically should show that he's a real hothead. If you go back and watch the other films, you have Christopher Evans before he went taken on by Marvel as Captain America, and he was perfect in the original. He was actually the best thing about the original ones, because of the fact he was a character who was a hothead. He'd do stupid things. He was a bit of a jerk. He was a wise ass. He had one-liners and stuff that he came out. There is this relationship between Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm, who they antagonize each other. They kind of fight a little and squabble. They're kind of like brothers. And there was none of that in this. It's horrible. The thing is, as well, the pacing is terrible. The editing is terrible. It's a film which has clearly been made as an attempt of, we're going to lose these rights if we don't make a film. But they don't care about actually making a good film. And that shows because of the fact that they just basically thrown it to someone and gone, here, do what you want with it. But then apparently there's been discussions and issues of problems being taken over and people coming in and taking over control and stuff. And it's ended up with this film which is a complete and utter mess. And for more in depth, you can look at the review on the site. I did write a review out which is several paragraphs long and details it without spoilers, I will add. And it's just it has nothing really redeeming of it, except for in particular a couple of sequences that were done like a horror movie. And there's things in there which I wrote in my review, which I wrote last week before the actual film came out, and there's references in there in things to like the Cronenberg work, which is really nicely done. There's some really nice ideas there, and it's the only thing that I can think of to say that's good about it. The rest of it, absolutely terrible. It's an awful film. It's horrible, and I really am more than disappointed. I'm actually really angry that Fox wasted 120 million on this rather than let it go back to Marvel, who would have done the most fantastic, and I'm not doing that as a pun, thing with this film.
To me, there is a scene in the film which perfectly sums up what Fantastic Four is actually like. When Miles Teller character of Reed Richards is when all of them have actually been taken to the secret base after the incident that happened where they've been imbued with their powers, Reed Richards decides to escape, and he tells Ben that he is going to come back for him. And then obviously the animosity between them, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they're best friends again. It just proves you how strange this film is actually handled. How the fact that Trank concentrated so much so to try his best to build up a relationship between four characters, with them going through sort of like an A-team moment, building this huge massive machine so they can transport themselves. He spends 2/3 of the film doing that, and then realises this is a superhero movie. We've got to quickly have an incident where they get the superpowers, which might cause the bad guy to get the superpowers as well. And we have to make an incident happen that revolves around the bad guy. And so it's just really badly constructed. I agree with you on the element which is all about the horror. It's seeing some blood in the film itself, and you see the bad guy, Dr. Doom, and inflict the thing that he wants to do on them, the nastiness on them, and that's really well handled. It's very dark and it's completely different to what you would normally see in a superhero movie. And my guess is, if he was allowed to make a 15 rated film, I think the film would have been much more darker. And I think I agree with you if he was under Marvel. I think Marvel might have actually taken the chance and done that. Rather than letting him make a sort of like a very basic comic book movie. There is hints that Marvel is going down the much more darker route with their next slate of films. You look at Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is going to be a bit of a hard film to do. And Marvel looks like they're turning a corner a little bit. And so I agree with you.
I actually would have suggested the way this has gone and the things that are looking at. I would have suggested Josh Trank for Doctor Strange more than Fantastic Four,
and Scott Derrickson for Fantastic Four. Then just flip them around, see what he would have done, because there is some darkness with the characters there, and there is definitely darkness with Doctor Doom, and you only briefly see that, and then all of a sudden he looks like a fluffy bunny rabbit. It's just a very strangely constructed, very mundane and boring film. You want something to happen, and when something happens, you go, "Is that it?"
There's also, I mean, it seems, to be honest, as if nobody involved in making the film actually cares about the characters or is interested in the characters, and just decided to do. I mean, it's a Fantastic Four film that isn't about the Fantastic Four. It doesn't have their characters. There's people in there named with those characters, but those people are not those characters. They don't have the relationships. They don't have the personas. They don't have the chemistry. And it's just that in particular is just one aspect of it that is lacking.
Yeah, and the prime example is the actors weren't even shown the film. They weren't screened the film. They had to wait for the film to have its premiere to see it firsthand. They didn't get to see a cut of the film, and so that's worrying when that's the case, when your actors can't even see the movie. And so my guess is they want to distance themselves away from it. And because of the fact that it's not going to go back to Marvel, they are fast-tracking a Fantastic Four 2.
I don't think that's going to happen now, to be honest.
It is penciled down for a 2017 release.
It's not even taken 30 million its opening weekend. It's flopped. It's cost them too much.
26 million in its opening weekend. Second behind last week's Rogue Nation, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, which is just ridiculous. Right, under the gift. It's written, directed and starring Joel Edgerton, so it's his directorial debut. He's written a few films before. He's been involved production-wise with films like Animal Kingdom. But this is the first time that he's actually getting behind the camera to direct a movie. And in the film, we see further characters of Jason Bateman's character, who plays Simon, and Rebecca Hall, who plays Robin. And sorry if I keep on dropping out a little bit. I'm trying to suck on a sweet at the same time as doing a review, because I have a cold. I don't want to cough, so I'm trying my best. But at the start of the film, we're introduced to the two characters of Simon and Robin. They're out shopping because they've just moved into a really high-priced house in California, and so they're out to try and get some stuff. And then all of a sudden, a blast from the past meets up with Simon in the form of Gordo, played by Joel Edgerton. Here's a clip.
Hey, excuse me. Hi. I'm sorry to bother you. I think I know you.
Yeah? I'm sorry. I can't place you.
Is your name Simon? Simon Cowell?
Yeah, Simon. Hi.
Oh,
we know each other.
Oh, we went to school together.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Which one? Fairmont
Park?
Really?
Yeah.
Same grade? What year did you graduate? Hey, honey. Excuse me 1 second.
Yeah. Okay, sure.
We'll rush. This is my wife, Robin. This is, I didn't get your name, sorry.
Gordon Mosley.
Hi. Gordon. Robin.
Gordo?
Hey.
Wow, buddy. I did not recognize you. Gordon Mosley. Oh, my gosh, honey. Gordo and I went to school together like, I don't know, what?
Really?
80 years ago.
Oh,
Almost.
And so for the opening half of the movie, it's all about Simon sort of like reminiscing with Gordo, and Gordo bringing a present around, and then all of a sudden he decides to drop off a few more gifts when Simon's out and sort of like befriends Robin. And then all of a sudden things take a dark turn, and that's where I'm going to stop. I'm not going to spoil the rest of the film, because the film itself, if you watch the trailer, it makes it out to be a really dark and gritty thriller. When in fact that I never got that feeling at all when watching the film. From the start to the end, it feels more like a drama with thriller elements to it. you follow the life of both Simon and Robin, and how the fact that Robin wants a child. She previously had an incident where she lost her child, and now she wants one, and then her relationship with her husband, you think there's something might be going on there, that it might be a bit fractured, and both Robin and Simon, they seem to argue a little bit more so, and with the introduction of Gordo, that changes the dynamic between them. And so it's nice to follow the story of that, and when the turns start to happen, you might see them coming, the turns, but then you think to yourself, actually that's handled really well. The direction is handled surprisingly very well from a first-time director, and Joel Edgerton shows, I think, with him working on previous movies that he has worked on, it's helped him. Rather than him sort of like jumping into the deep end and then directing a film after like 2 or 3 movies, he's sort of like brought traits from the previous films that he's been in, and so his character has that very scary look to it, and you think that there's something wrong with him, yet there are red herrings all over the place. And so that's what makes the film really, really interesting. I was surprised because I was expecting a very straightforward thriller. But in fact, I got a drama with thriller elements to it, and I enjoyed it much, much more than what the trailer made it out to be. It needs to be sought out and watched for actually everybody involved, because Jason Bateman is really good in it. I'm glad he's ditched these comedy elements rather and just like played a very straight-faced character in this film, because he handles his character really well. Rebecca Hall, who plays Robin, is also surprisingly good in the film, and so is Joel Edgerton. Everybody involved brings their A game, and so it's a very well directed film, very well written, very well acted film. That's a drama with tiny little thriller elements to it that keeps you guessing at times. So I really enjoyed it.
I really like Jason Bateman as well. I haven't seen this, but I just comment on there about the fact saying Jason Bateman doing a dramatic role, because the last time I remember seeing him in a dramatic role, it wasn't comedy, was the small role he had in the Russell Crowe Ben Affleck film. I can't think of the name of it now. The sort of the news reporter drama, which was a really good film. I really liked it, and it had him in a sort of very weird sort of character, but it was a very, very sort of traumatic moment for his character in the film, and very well handled by him. So I know he's a great actor. I hope he's going to get more of those kind of roles than we've seen him lately in the comedy roles, and so I hope this does well and it gets recognition for that.
It was nice for Edgerton to actually take a gamble on taking and selecting someone like Jason Bateman, because then there is, if that's the case, can he just work with Melissa McCarthy then? Because he might bring out the proper actress in her. Because we got it for, in one of her roles previously, and we need to see more of that, rather than her in Ghostbusters.
Okay, going on to then the other cinema release this week, Max, which is directed by Boaz Yakin. Also had a hand in writing it with Sheldon Lettich. It's a story of a retriever who is a US trained retriever, dog that's sort of used, as we're seeing in the opening parts of the film, in Afghanistan, with his sort of handler in the movie, who basically walks on, and not a spoiler because it's early on, but ends up getting killed by an ambush. In this sequence, the dog is sort of shipped back to the US, where he is sort of set to be sort of checked and make sure, because of the fact of that the dog suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of this, which makes him sort of more aggressive. There's outbursts whenever there's loud noises and such, and so because of this, they're considering actually putting him down. The family of the soldier who was his handler, who he kind of grew up with and trained with, have sort of found out about this, and then decided what they want to do is they want to actually adopt the dog and take it on themselves, because of the fact of that it is essentially part of the family. So the family, which you have the parents played by Lauren Graham and Thomas Hayden Church, who are there, and there's sort of their other son played by Josh Wiggins, who is there, who's essentially reluctantly takes on the job of training the dog, even though he has absolutely no idea what he's doing. Here's a clip.
Gil, don't let your dog walk you, you walk your dog. Dogs run in packs, so if he's leading you, he's leading the pack.
My brother said Max was like a specialized search dog. He could go out in front of his handler for like 300 yards, locate weapons and explosives and stuff.
Yo, we got the Air Jordan of dogs here, man. You got him shooting layups?
Oh, I'm sorry, Chewie. Did you want to try walking?
Heck no, you crazy?
All right, Max, such a superstar. Let's see you work off leash.
I don't think it's a good idea. Something happens, but that'll kill me. So.
No guts, no glory. Now walk with him like you were just doing.
Heel. Thanks.
Well, I do not believe what I'm seeing. How'd you get him to do that?
He already knew, ma'am. We were just refreshing his memory.
So, here's the thing with Max. It is a film that has a very basic idea of it, which is kind of like one of these old 80s Disney films sort of surrounding it. And then it starts to then turn in things like having characters doing things to do with gun smuggling. And this gun storyline, which comes in, is sort of inserted little bits here and there, but then really takes over the last half of the film. And just doesn't work at all. It's completely wrong, out of place. It doesn't fit. But that's not saying the first half of the film entirely works either, because it doesn't really know how to deal with the subject of the dog and the character of the dog, which just doesn't have anything to it. It's a film which has, the first half of it has a really good premise, and I actually really like the premise of it, the whole thing of the dog and the dog having post-traumatic disorder and the whole thing of the family having to deal with it. And then it starts doing that thing which everyone kind of hates, where it starts to then try and manipulate feelings out of people and stuff. And it then you kind of start to actually resent it for doing that a little bit, and it kind of loses you. That's the problem with it. If they had stuck to the original idea set out early on, if they hadn't had this whole thing with another soldier that's going on, which just feels literally like, oh, the dog has to be a hero, so of course we have to have a villain who of course hates the dog and wants to kill the dog, and you know, the dog is a witness kind of a thing. And you just, honestly, really, the dog is a witness? Seriously, they're going to take this dog to a court and have it, you know, stand up there and actually bark to tell them who, you know, it was guy number one. Oh, come on, really.
One bark for yes, two barks for no.
Yeah, exactly. It's a dog, first of all. Don't imbue it with, as much as dogs are intelligent animals and do things like this, they can't talk. Don't imbue it with special things. I mean, as much as that says more to the character being an absolute stupid idiot, it actually kind of also says that the film wants the film thinks the audience are complete and utter stupid idiot people. And I mean, if they'd just taken the whole idea, made it a drama about the dog actually being messed up, because it even sets up, there's a great sequence where it sets up, there's this whole thing of a fireworks festival thing that goes on, and you have that going on, and the dog supposedly is having problems because of the fact of loud noises, which dogs generally anyway don't deal with fireworks very well. And this dog is just kind of sitting in a cage barking, and the boy goes in and sort of sits in the cage with it, and it calms down. And I honestly sat there and I went, really? You know, if the dog really had PTSD and that was going on, the dog would be absolutely losing it. It would be looping. It would be going crazy. And it would have been nicer to just see a drama centering around a dog that was basically needing the help that it should get. Not try and manipulate me into feeling something for it, because I don't. I felt manipulated, and I felt cheesed off at the director and the film for doing that. There's also this sub-story as well of the father, who was also a Marine previously and was injured in a line of duty, and has a, you know, like an existing injuries from that affect him. And there's this whole thing of the father and son who don't get on well and resent each other, and the father sort of comes out and explains the whole thing of what happened, and it's not everything that they thought it was. And please, could you pick any more cliches and stuff them into this film? Just honestly, take the first half hour, that's actually the thing, and run with it. Don't go, oh, we need this, we need a villain, we need this. Just have a drama around a dog with PTSD, and you would have a good film, and it would be decent. Instead, as it is, it's not.
This is what happens when you take a little bit from The Littlest Hobo, a tiny little soup song from Lassie, and then mix it with Call of Duty. That's exactly what you get. It's a bit of a mishmash to try and do, and I'm with you. I hate films that manipulate you, whether it be for emotional purposes or action-wise, or for you to feel sorry for characters and things like that. I hate movies that try to do that, especially when it tries to do it so in your face, rather than it just being the undercurrent part of a story, when it's so much there right in front of you going, oh, we're going to concentrate the first half of the film where it's all sadness. It's pathetic when it does stuff like that, and then decides to change tack because it realises it's just done too much with sadness, and we need to have some sort of like vaudevillian kind of bad guy there. We might as well have seen Max being tied up on a railroad track and a train coming in with a damsel in distress rescuing him, so flip it round the other way around. That's the way the film was actually feeling, so it's a very manipulative film. I think the dog is the best actor in the movie as well.
It is, yeah. It's the best performance in the film. And the thing is, they could have just done so much more with just the dog acting. You know, if they'd focused on the dog and not focused on all the villain and the characters and everything that have been added in there to try and stack it up, they would have had a better film, and they just failed at that.
If you want to watch a film which involves an animal where it's going through something, watch Dolphin Tale. Dolphin Tale 1 and 2. Yeah, it's very much like Disney schmaltzy kind of stuff of the 80s, but it works. It is actually a pretty entertaining, very well directed film. Dolphin Tale 2 especially, I was surprised by that one because it did entertain me, but there was a proper purpose behind it. It didn't want to force feed you by saying, oh, you should feel really sorry for this one-fin dolphin, and then it's going to lose its home. It never ever does that. Max, however, makes you go, oh, this dog has went through a lot, you've got to feel sorry for him, but let's bring a character in where it involves guns and all that kind of stuff as well. It's just, it's completely forgettable.
Yeah.
Right, that's it for the cinema section of the show. We'll be back in a month with a Blu-ray and DVD section.
There was a real sense of you were doing something wrong, but that did give it that feeling of excitement.
When the reveal of the film happens, that's when it just becomes absurd.
And the atmosphere and just the sense you get whenever you go into it is undeniable.
It did absolutely zero for me, which could be for the hype.
What we've just discussed there is just scratching the surface on it.
Hi, I'm Eric England, the director of Contracted, and you're listening to From Page to Screen, the horror show.
And we're back with this week's DVD and Blu-ray release section, which will go through a look at the UK DVD and Blu-ray top 10 and then these new releases.
Yeah, we have Australian drama with The Water Diviner, Liam Neeson Has to Run All Night, British Sci-Fi action adventure amalgamation mess kind of thing with Robot Overlords, comedy with Will Farrell and Kevin Hart in Get Hard.
I think you can already tell how that's going for you.
And supposed thriller starring Selma Hayek in Everly.
Yeah. But before that, let's go straight on to the DVD and Blu-ray top 10, starting at number 10 with 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah. Yeah. Rita Ora says that she might actually return for the second film, 50 Shades Darker. If that's anything interesting. Supposedly Henry Cavill is rumoured to be getting topped up to star in it.
I wonder why they went with him, to be honest. Well, to be honest, not why they went with him, why he agreed to it. He doesn't need to, really.
Well,
another franchise to start going in, you know.
They've asked him. He's probably going to say no and going, yeah, I'd rather have a sexual relationship with Batman.
Number 9 is Kingsman: The Secret Service,
which I really liked. We both really liked. More so on the second viewing. After the first viewing, get rid of all of the qualms that you had with it when you first saw it, and then you realise, this is pretty much an entertaining film. Feels like an old-fashioned Bond film, even though I'm not a fan of the Bond series, but I still appreciate it for that, and it was just very British in the way that it played out as well, and stupidly violent at times.
Number 8 is Taken 3.
Yeah. Taken 3, yeah. I've got another Liam Neeson film that I'm reviewing tonight called Run All Night, so we'll find out if that's any better than Taken 3, but it's not going to be very hard, considering that Taken 3 is rubbish.
Yep. Number 7 is The Second Best Exotic, Marigold Hotel.
Better if it was a TV movie. If it was a TV mini-series stretched out over Christmas, it would have worked much better. because the fact that the film itself has so many different story strands, it does know how to round them out and how to fully follow through with them. It's still very well acted by the ensemble cast, but I think it would have been much better on TV rather than the cinema.
New entry at number 6, I'll get to in a second, but just saying about new entries this week, rather disappointed that my favourite film of last week's went in at number 15, Good Kill, didn't make it into the top 10. At number 6 though is Woman in Gold.
Yeah, Helen Mirren and Ryan Reynolds stars in a drama film which is trying to be a lot like Philomena and movies like that, and it doesn't actually reach those levels. However, it's still interesting enough. It splits sort of like into where it centres in Germany, and then it's in present day. And so I think the German side of it, which involves an Austrian family, I think that's the more interesting part. But because the fact that we couldn't have followed a film where it was entirely in German with English subtitles, the studio would not have wanted that to happen. We needed the English element to it as well, and I think that's the weaker part of it. It's still very well acted by Helen Mirren and Ryan Reynolds. Daniel Bruhl is completely just wasted in the movie itself. So there are parts of the film which work. I just think that I would have found the film much more interesting if it followed the family in Germany rather than in present day.
And number 3 is Wildcard. Sorry, number
5.
5. Sorry, last week's number 3 is Wildcard.
It's pretty mundane and pretty boring, actually. It's Jason Statham, sort of like, it feels like a go-between movie for him. Like a film that's sandwiched in between two films that he's really interested to make, and then he was said, we'll give you £1 million if you star in this movie for us. Oh, why not? It's an extra £1 million. I can buy another wing for my house.
Number 4, I don't think it quite was that. Number 4 is Seventh Son.
Well, if you like Notch or something like that from Mojang, then his house was something like $45 million, then $1 million is probably going to buy you another wing. So I don't. That's not to say that he's actually got a house which has cost $45 million, but you know what? The house prices are like these days. Very political. But yeah, Seventh Son is rubbish. It's garbage. These high fantasy movies do not work. They are trying their best to take the nature and the brilliance of the films that were from the 60s and 70s, the Ray Harryhausen movies, but they fail miserably because they think that CGI is going to be able to do all of that. It doesn't. The whole joy of those 70s films is the practical effects, those skeletons which look very laughable now, the kind of thing that you would see in a very run-down basic haunted house ride, but they're still enjoyable for it. Whereas these ones, you're looking at them going, yep, you can work a computer, but you cannot work a script.
Number 1 last week, dropping down to 3, is Home.
I quite liked Home. It's very inoffensive film. It has its moments every now and again. The animation is fine. It's okay. It's not as bad as a lot of people make it out to be.
Like I do.
Yes, like you do.
Yeah. New entry at number 2. Got new entries for both number 2 and 1. At number 2 is the SpongeBob movie Sponge Out of Water.
Absolutely bat crazy for the first 80 minutes, 70 minutes, and then it just goes, live action bit, we need to bring Antonio Banderas' character back. Why not? That feels, the rest of it there, the animation part of it is really well handled, but prepare to have your mind scrambled a lot.
And the new number 1 movie, Insurgent.
I'm going to use this because I coined the phrase a little while ago, but it is very much a weakquel. It's a weak sequel. Considering that the first film in the series is really well handled, and it is up there with the movies like The Hunger Games and films that they are imitating each other. I think The Maze Runner belongs in that little category as well. It's not no Mortal Instruments, City of Bones, and any film like that. But it was entertaining. It was very well handled. The sequel just throws all of that out of the window and just decides to, you know what, let's rehash the story from the first one, but let's add more action in it and dumb down the characters and just make it boring. There is only one part of the film which I think is handled really well, and that's when Triss is having to tell the truth when she's put in under the serum and she's had to tell the truth. I thought that scene was very well handled because it had extreme emotion in it and it worked really well for the film. The rest of it, though, I was going, yeah, I can't believe you've just thrown every brilliance out the window.
So that's the UK box office. Sorry, UK DVD and Blu-ray top 10. Which of these films do you think we'll get into it next week then? So let's go through them. First one up is The Water Diviner, which is written by Andrew Knight and Andrew Anastasios. I think that's right. But directed by Russell Crowe, who also stars in the movie as Connor, the main character, who it's a based on true events and the story of a father who, at the start of the movie, we're introduced to him just after the end of World War One in the early 20th century. He is in Australia living with his wife. His 3 sons, Arthur, Edward and Henry, had been sent off to war. They have had news back that all 3 of them have been killed. His wife, not able to deal with this, commits suicide, and he has to then go over. He decides that now that he's sort of buried his wife, he needs to go and retrieve his sons' bodies so that they can be buried with her. The issue being that when they've been killed at war, a lot of families were not able to retrieve the bodies. The bodies were being buried abroad or wherever they had been killed, unfortunately, because of health issues of having bodies around and transport issues. So he decides what he's going to do is find out where they were. He has sort of reports and notes and details that he starts to investigate this, travels across to Turkey, and start to sort of try and get in the way of the efforts there of sort of the peace afterwards between the soldiers, some Australian and some from Turkey, who are trying to sort of clear up things and resolve after the conflict. Amongst them there in particular is a soldier, an Australian soldier played by Jai Courtney, who really is sort of does not see any point in helping him, and sort of sees this whole issue of, it's just a man who's searching for his father. He's just going to get in the way of things. Just sort of get him on the first trip back to Australia. We don't want him here messing around with things. That is until he sort of sees this happening and speaks with his counterpart from Turkey, who has a different view on things. Here's a clip.
Not swimming?
No. What are you doing with your farmer?
There's a supply ship back to Constantinople in 2 days.
Maybe we could help him until then.
You know what the chances of finding his boys are.
We have the day they were killed. I know the area.
Yeah, we both know it, but why change everything for one father who can't stay put?
Because he is the only father who came looking.
Sergeant! Change of plan.
So, here's the thing with The Water Diviner. It is a well-directed film. It is well put together. It's well edited. It's well paced for the most part. The problem that the film has is that there is a certain point where it gets to when the character has arrived in Turkey. He goes to this hotel and he meets this character of Aisha, played by Olga Kurylenko, who is completely superfluous to the film. Doesn't need to be there. I mean, I get that they're trying to maybe add in a female character, and there's this whole thing of this thing between this kind of connection between him and her, and he's sort of there to look for his sons, and she's sort of interested in that. And for me, just felt so out of place. Honestly, did not feel like it needed to be there at all. It's not as if the film is especially long, but her character just could have been completely cut out of it, and it would not have suffered. It would have actually gained from it, I believe. Surprisingly, I mean, we're talking here during that clip, Jai Courtney is doing his best at visually doing a Tom Selleck Magnum moustache in this film. And the thing is, I don't know if it's the facial hair or what, but he actually is fairly decent in this film. If that's the case, I'll gladly see him in other films with a big, massive Tom Selleck moustache in place.
Yeah, I think
a decent performance from him.
I think you're trying to say that his moustache outacts him.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I mean, it's the thing that we poke fun at him because the thing is, majority
he's rubbish.
He is terrible.
That's why.
In this, though, I actually found myself going, you know what, Jai Courtney, he can act. Where the hell has he been for the last 10 years?
You were lost in his moustache, admit it. You were just looking at it going, that's impressive, that moustache, and were distracted by it rather than his acting.
Can you imagine him if he'd been in Jack Reacher with a moustache and just twirling it like a villain? You know, I mean, that would have just done
sort of
so
like
much more for him.
Somebody in the background playing the piano, ding, 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 and it turns black and white. Anything.
Yeah, and just it zooms in on this face, really one of those quick pan zooms, from the old westerns. You can see him in that, and it would be perfect. No, but the thing is, Russell Crowe this is his directorial debut, and it's a good directorial debut. It shows promise, it shows skill, and it shows patience. The only thing it doesn't show is the problem with. And I don't think it's down to him. I think it's down to the writing and the story. I don't know if this is entirely based on true events. I know it's based around true events. I don't know if the character is based on a real person or not that happened. I can believe that it did, but I think that if it did, there have definitely been elements that have been added in to try and make it more cinematic, and they're unnecessary, to be honest. If there are things like the female character being added in, just not necessarily actually drags the film down, and I really thought was just unnecessary. There's some because it handles, there are sort of flashbacks to war sequences. There are sequences which are they're quite to scale, the whole thing of seeing the disaster of after war and all the bodies and such, and it does evoke emotion seeing this. It does a job of doing that, which is what it sets out to do. So it's successful on most parts. The only problem is just that it has too much clunk to it.
Yeah, I felt like it was just very plodding. It felt like he sort of like when he met up with Olga Kurylenko's character, that he forgot about his sons and he was more concentrated on that. He just didn't realise what his original purpose there was, and so then he sort of like turned it very much like Tintin in a way. It's got a very Tintin kind of look to it. It's strange seeing that, but it does have that feel. It's got a nice cinematography feel to it. The cinematography is really nice. It's just that doesn't help a film, though, if your drama is very plodding and very meandering, and times just loses itself and just thinks, oh, that vase is pretty. And then it gets distracted for a few minutes before it realises there's a plot in a film. And it just lacks. It's just brought down by that, and I think the film is way too long. It could have been a 90-minute film, more interesting, rather than nearly 2 hours, because I felt like the film dragged badly. Acting-wise, it's very well acted, but I thought the movie was just a bit plodding for me. That can't be said though about Run All Night.
Yeah.
Run All Night, directed by Colette Serra, who's worked alongside Liam Neeson on previous films before. And he did Non-Stop with Liam Neeson, Colette Serra's previous film. Colette Serra also worked on a few little horror films. Orphan was an interesting film that he worked on. And in this one, it's sort of like taking Neeson and going, you know what, we're not going to make you run all night, but we are going to make you plod along a little bit and be very grisly. And so in the film itself, he plays a ex-professional hitman known as Jimmy Conlon. When I actually first saw his name, I thought it said Jimmy Colon. I didn't see the other N, so I was thinking, Colon? That's a strange surname, but it's Conlon. And he's best friends with the character who's played by Ed Harris, Sean Maguire, who's also a singer. And it was in the spin-off from 300, the comedy version of it. Meet the Spartans.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, he was in that. But yeah, distracting from it. But yeah, he plays, Ed Harris plays that. And they were best friends. And that's practically Jimmy's only friend in the form of Maguire. Maguire owns this pub and sort of like, he has the hitman qualities to him. He has the sort of like the gangster feel to him. He has a son, Maguire has a son who's very destructive, yet Conlon has a son who's trying to look out for himself along with his family. He's trying to have a normal life for himself. He's a limo driver, and he's involved in an incident one night when he lets one of a friend who he teaches boxing to into the limousine, and then an incident occurs which involves Maguire's son. And then sort of like he gets marked for it, and Maguire's son goes after Jimmy's son. And so you've got the turmoil there until Jimmy steps in and ends off ending the life of Maguire's son. And so then Jimmy has a hit put out on him, and so it's all about him surviving while he keeps his son in survival. Here's a clip.
Gabby?
What happened to your face?
Where are the girls?
They're asleep upstairs.
Hurry up and go pack their stuff.
Why do you have a gun?
Look, Michael, whatever you're going through, there's a way out.
Mike?
Look, Michael, we get... Sit down, Ricky.
They said you killed 2 cops. It's all over the news. Tell me you didn't do it.
I picked up 2 clients today. Took them to Danny McGuire's house. And he killed them. He shot them both. And then he tried to kill me, too, because I saw him do it.
Did you call the cops?
It's not that simple.
What do you mean it's not that simple?
Look, I grew up around this stuff. I know what these people are capable of. And now they're coming after us. You gotta take the girls and go.
I'm calling the cops.
Baby. I'm gonna fix this. But you gotta trust me.
So the ultimate question is the film any good? And the answer to that is, well, it's really hard to see it. Because I didn't hate the film, but I didn't actually particularly like the movie neither. Because this is not Neeson just instantly doing his taken kind of role by saying, when I find you, I will kill you. Yet he does sort of say that in the film. He just turns around and goes, when I find you, I will protect my son. I will look after my son. My son is important. My son, my son, my son, my son. And you expect him to burst out into song to sing, my son, my son, my son. And he is out to look after his son. You can obviously understand it because Maguire's son is despicable. He's a horrible character. And so he gets his comeuppance. And then you think to yourself, really, your father is that sort of like stupid and believes everything that you did, and so he's going to stick up for you when you're dead? And so the film itself is very stereotypical, and you think to yourself, with Colette Serra directing Neeson in Non-Stop, Non-Stop was okay, and he might have found a way of directing Neeson without him being all gravelly and grisly and threatening people by killing them with a spoon. Whereas he sort of like goes back to his traits on that. Not all the time, but he does rely too much on that kind of thing of him having lots of drinks and then sounding like he smoked 50 cigarettes straight after it. And so the film itself, it gets bogged down in that kind of stuff. There is a couple of set pieces which are handled okay, but the movie never strives to be better than okay, and it just barely meets the okay level.
Okay, so on to Robot Overlords, which is written and directed by John Wright, and it's a small British film which tries to go kind of big with... the movie starts out with an on-screen message showing that the Earth was taken over by robots. It was taken over in a matter of days, 11 days in fact. There was a war, and then humans were taken over. The robots had sort of one rule, that they will basically be there to investigate human life and investigate all life throughout the universe, and then they will leave. The only thing is, the rule they have is between now and then is that all humans must stay inside. So between now and then, all people have sort of got these kind of sort of neural chips implanted in their heads. They have this chip that sort of governs them and makes sure if they're out, the machines can then sort of detect them. People are killed if they don't return to their home within 5 seconds when ordered. And you have there, in amongst these sort of this situation, this occupation, a group of kids led by Sean, played by Callum McAuliffe, who is sort of a kind of normal sort of teenager. He's there with his friends and his brother and such. They live with his mother, played by Gillian Anderson of X-Files fame, and you have a sort of man who works with the robots. They end up calling them collaborators, even though he despises that name. Played by, of all people, Sir Ben Kingsley. You have this whole thing going on of the children, while messing around with things and have this battery they find, end up electrocuting Sean, which results in his implant being disabled. They then do this to all of them so they can then sort of move around freely. What happens then, though, is eventually they are discovered, and it turns out that as a result of something happening with his implant, Sean is then able to actually connect with and remote control with his thoughts the robots. So it ends up sort of, leading a revolution and leading his family to try and find his father, who disappeared during the 11 days of war. And it's a film that, put it this way, it is a film that is very British in the fact that it's not a massively brilliant film. It is flawed, but the thing is, I oddly found myself getting into it and enjoying it, and part of that as well, I have to admit, is that the effects are actually pretty decent in it. It's a film that I first saw the trailer for, a very rough trailer for it ages ago. We don't have a clip because very little in the way of clips were released for it. Very, very little in sort of PR, but I did see the trailer for it a while back, and I honestly thought the trailer didn't do it any favours. I thought the trailer looked awful, and it really put me off it. I've seen it now, and I can say it actually was undersold by the trailer. I don't think it's a fantastic film, but I think it's an enjoyable film, and it's a nice little independent film, especially for the scope and scale that it goes for. And I mean, it's kind of laughable as well. You got Ben Kingsley in there, how they managed to get him, and he's kind of just doing this thing where he's chewing the scenery a little bit. But overall, I have to say, I enjoyed this a lot more than I was expecting to, and I actually found myself kind of rooting for it a little bit and getting into it. Some of the sequences were actually pretty well handled, and the sequences with the robots are actually quite impressive. So it's not gonna, win any awards or anything. It's not gonna win awards for effects, but it's a good way to pass an hour and a half. I've seen a lot worse films in that time that I genuinely wished I could have clawed my eyes out afterwards. This didn't have that effect on me.
For me, like I told you at the start of the show, I think the film itself reminds me a lot like the spin-off from Doctor Who, the Sarah Jane Chronicles. It's got that feel to it. It feels like it's a TV sci-fi film made by the BBC. Yeah. The movie has got that feel to it. Now, I would have probably enjoyed the film more so if it was shown again like the second best exotic Marigold Hotel. If it was shown like a Christmas special. Like the BBC created it, they showed it over the Christmas period or some kind of holiday period. And yeah, I think the film would have worked much better like that, because the fact that it got a cinematic release and the fact that it's out on Blu-ray and DVD now, it just shows you that the movie itself isn't strong enough to handle that kind of thing. The special effects are very dodgy. The cubes are very cubed. It's like they designed them in Minecraft. But it's just the film itself is just lacking in any kind of big or expansive quality to it that would have not have felt out of place on TV for me.
I just thought it set out to do something, and I thought it didn't do it brilliantly, but it did achieve it, which is very, very rare in these small kind of films being made. That kind of a thing. Normally you have something like that, and it will be completely laughable and terrible, and I actually thought it was okay. Not brilliant, but okay.
Okay, then. On to Get Hard. Directed by Ethan Coen. It stars Will Farrell, who plays James, and Kevin Hart, who plays Darnell. Now, James has everything. He has a ton of money. He's very good at his job. He's brilliantly at his job. He is married to... Well, he's going to get married to... the daughter of the guy who owns the company where he works at. So he's got loads of money. He's planning a house which has got stupid amounts of bedrooms in it, stupid amounts of kitchens and toilets and all that kind of stuff. And so you see the life that he's leading. Whereas Darnell is sort of like on the flip side. He's barely managing to make any kind of money whatsoever. His business, which is a car cleaning firm, is a valeting company, barely brings in any kind of money, and he needs a lot of money to try and do a project that he wants to do. However, things start to turn a little bit for James when he's brought to trial for money imbuement and all that kind of stuff, sort of like taking money from places where he shouldn't have. So he seeks the help of Darnell to try and make him more gangster in street, because he has 30 days before he gets sentenced to a 10-year prison sentence in one of the most maximum security prisons, and he expects that he is going to be ruined in there. Here's a clip.
Look what Kevin did to my guitar.
Oh, not again.
God.
Apologies, that was the wrong clip.
Brilliant. Any bet is better than the film itself.
Well, here's the clip, though.
I venture you've heard that I'm going to prison.
Yeah, no, we all did. I just didn't want to bring it up first, that's all. Come on, they're probably sending you some club-fed prison. You'll be playing tennis and golf,
I'm going to be attending San Quentin.
They're sending you to San Quentin? Oh. Hey, I don't wish that on my worst enemy.
I know.
You talking about bad, that's bad.
You should know, I'm sorry to remind you.
What are you talking about?
Well, the fact that you went to prison.
How do you know I went to prison?
It's really quite simple. Statistical analysis is what I do. Here's the deal. 1 out of 3 black men will find themselves incarcerated during their lifetime.
You know what? Let me give you my statistical analysis. You going to San Quentin? There's a 100% chance that you're going to be somebody's bitch.
So, is the film any good? You can probably guess by my tone that the answer is definitely, wholeheartedly, 100% no. This is... It just hates everybody. It doesn't like anybody. It takes the mickey out of every different way of life possible. Now you think to yourself, well, okay then, at least it's not as focused in its anger on one specific area, so the gays or blacks or anything like that. But because the fact that it's got its anger centered on everything, it makes jokes out of everything, it makes you hate the film even more because there isn't time for you to go, oh, well, it's fine with that. It just takes the mickey out of people who are homosexual. It takes the mickey out of people who are black. It takes the mickey out of people who are supposedly rich. It takes the mickey out of people who are poor. It takes the mickey out of every different person in society that you think to yourself, who is this movie made for? It's made for nobody. Even a homeless man who would be given the chance to go into your house to sit down, have a hot meal and watch a film. The second you put this film on, he'll actually go back outside under the bridge that he lived in and never return to anybody's house ever again, because he'll realise that his life is much better in the cold dampness of this world rather than watching horrendous terribleness that is films like Get Hard. Will Ferrell should be ashamed of himself. Kevin Hart should be ashamed of himself, but the director should be even more ashamed of himself, thinking that this is a brilliant idea, what he's creating, when in fact he is creating the lowest common denominator possible. It's a horrid movie.
I don't think it's great, but I don't think it's just horrible and terrible as you're making it out to be. So I don't know if it's just because of I do like comedies more, but I definitely don't think it's a great film.
I think it's because you're slightly more nicer than I am. I don't think that I'm a good person to review films. Prime example, if you look at the characters from Inside Out, they've got their own character traits to them. You've got joy, you've got sadness, you've got anger, you've got disgust.
You've definitely got anger.
Yeah, I got joy. When you type in your name into this random generator, I got joy. Yeah, no, Mark from Following the Nerd got disgust. So
yeah,
I
that
got
sounds more like you.
I got the wrong one. I would have been perfect for either sadness, because I always take the mickey out of myself and put myself down, or anger, especially when I'm reviewing films, considering that I'm the one who's nasty to films more so than you are. You're much more nicer than I am. So, yeah, I
bet if I do it, I'll get anger.
Probably. He said you'll have to do it at the end of the show or something like that, or while I'm reviewing. Well, you've got one more film to review anyway, so I don't know if you've got enough time to actually do it, but
no, probably not.
It'd be interesting to see what you get.
Okay, I'll go on to Everly, which is the last film. It's directed by Joe Lynch. It is a story which centres around the character of Everly, played by Selma Hayek, and it's one of these films that's all shot in, the one set. It's basically set in this apartment of hers. She wakes up there, sort of in the start of the film after having been beaten. Presumably, we don't really see the details of it. She is then sort of looking into things, and it's essentially a thing where she finds herself there in a situation where there's guns, there's these gangsters that all work for her kind of forced upon boyfriend, and it's really a case of that then she finds herself in a situation and she has to sort of shoot her way out, but finds herself pinned in there, and ends up sort of, it's all set there because she's then waiting for, first of all, her bosses and sort of boyfriends, all sort of sending these assassins to kill her, and she's sort of having to fend them off, even though she has absolutely no skills in that department. She has then this whole thing of that there's this storyline to do with her daughter who is living with her mother, and she hardly ever sees, but she then wants to sort of see her and get her out of there. And to be honest, it's a complete mess of a film. It's one of these films that takes an idea, a concept, and then decides, you know what, we're gonna just go and have a free for all. And the thing it essentially tries to be a 90-minute film that is the kind of the samurai sequence of the first part of Kill Bill, only without samurai swords and instead with guns and explosives and grenades and all that sort of thing. And it really just it's doesn't work. It's it first of all there is very little sort of to the characters when there are any, and they're not just sort of cannon fodder. You have the character of Everly, who is just really she manages to first of all survive being shot at the beginning and tapes herself up, and we're not talking about a flesh wound, we're talking about being shot through the abdomen. And basically just a little bit duct tape and she's fine. No point does she sort of walk around going, "Oh, I'm in pain" or anything like that. There's a guy that she actually sort of shoots and ends up talking with through the film as he's sort of bleeding out on her couch, who then sort of explains that he didn't want to get involved in this. He's just a little guy who ended up having to be there, and shame, I'm going to die because of the fact of this and all, and please, really. And it was just, honestly, it's a complete horrible mess of a film where the script doesn't work, the direction doesn't work, the action is very, very basic and, to be honest, over the top, unnecessary, to the point of trying to be humorous, but then has sequences where people are being shot in the head and stuff like that, and you're kind of going, well, I don't know if I should be laughing or be disgusted. And it's just a mess.
Yeah, that poor bloke who sits on the couch, she has a daughter who's sitting with him and has a conversation with him. And if I was the guy, I would just turn around and say, "Are you stupid? Just ring for an ambulance. I'm bleeding here. I need help."
It's almost like that sequence out of Austin Powers. She's like, I'm shot. I'm very badly bleeding. Can someone please get me an ambulance?
I'm okay. I'm going to try and stand up and then crunch. It's okay. I can feel pain still. But
I mean, if this had been done like that all the way through that with a comedy, this would have been hysterical. And it would have actually been funny. But no, it's trying to be a serious thriller and it's just not.
It looks at movies like The Raid and thinks, "Oh, we could do that." No, you can't. You need a competent director to do that. You need a competent actor/actress to do that. You've got absolutely nothing. You think by throwing in tons of violence, lots of blood, gore and big gun fights and all that kind of stuff will make a really interesting film. You have to have something that's known as a plot. It's a simple 4-letter word that helps a film along, that tells a story, rather than just have a woman who just moans throughout the film and then shoots a lot of people. It's terrible.
So that's it for this week's releases. Before we get to sort of round up the show, let's have a look at TV movies of the week.
Now, I definitely know you've got one, which I've probably got. Because I've got 3.
Yeah, well, I've got 3 as well. I'm wondering if we've got the same ones.
No.
All right. Well, I'll go for mine Thursday. Thursday the 13th at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
No. Prometheus is on Film 4, which was a film. It's a very underrated film. A lot of people seem to hate it. But seriously, if you've not seen it, check it out. If you have seen it and you don't like it, I really do implore you, give it another chance, because it is a good film. You just have to be in the right mood to see it. If you go and see it expecting it to be another Alien film, it's not. It's different. But the thing is, immediately after that, at 11:25 at night on Film 4, on the Thursday night, is the original Seven Samurai, which is a long film, so you might want to record it, because it's going to go on till the wee hours of the morning. But it's a classic, Akira Kurosawa's...
Kurosawa.
Kurosawa. I might get the name. Why am I thinking? Because I don't know. But it is one of those films that, you know, most other films that have that sort of genre, the Magnificent Seven and such things like that, are all essentially based off of this, the same basic idea, and then redone and reworked and done in different ways. So it is a classic that should be seen and should be sort of admired for being a trendsetter. Basically, you know, it's the film that set up all these films. My final movie, which I think you may have this one, on Sunday the 16th.
Yep.
On Channel 4.
Yep.
At 9 o'clock.
Yep.
Go ahead then.
0:30.
Yeah. And why is this film so good?
Because it's directed by, and this is not being sexist, a woman director in Catherine Bigelow, who's directing a thriller, but a brilliantly taught thriller. It's very, you're on the edge of your seat. That's what thrillers should do. They should put you on the edge of your seat. Be shocked at times. But Catherine Bigelow knows how to handle these kind of movies with such brilliance. This is the movie that, for me, it propelled Jessica Chastain to the higher echelons when it comes to actresses, because I think she's fantastic in the film. There is a moment in the movie which is slightly strange, but the rest of the film is brilliantly handled.
It was seen as being very controversial at the time when it was released, and it's not really. I don't think it's any more controversial than a lot of other films that nothing was said about. The whole thing of torture and stuff, which I don't think it embellishes torture, which is what people said it did. I think it actually shows the detrimental effect of torture, that it doesn't work, that it's actually a bad thing. It's actually a kind of in the same way like Unforgiven is a thing against violence. I think Zero Dark 30 is actually making a point of torture doesn't work. It's against torture as a way of sort of dealing with terrorism. But overall, it's a very, very good film, and Catherine Bigelow is one of my favourite directors. So
the BBFC wouldn't have given it a 15 rated certificate if they thought it was that bad.
No,
it would have actually pushed it into the 18 certificate, and it's a 15. So
it would have been if they thought it was embellishing things and it was actually making a point of saying torture was good. Torture should be done and stuff. It's not, and if it was, then the BBFC would have jumped on it, and they haven't.
Yeah, my other two to add to that is my first one is on ITV2 tomorrow night, so that's Tuesday the 11th at 10 o'clock. The Faculty. I love The Faculty. Mm. There is a film out at the end of the year called Cooties, which has got Elijah Wood in it, who's in The Faculty, and he's sort of like it's a seminal sequel to The Faculty Cooties, and I cannot wait for that film. But The Faculty is an old-fashioned grisly kind of horror film brought into the modern day age, and mixing sort of like the teen high school movie with it as well. I love the film. It's very well made, and it's just so enjoyable. I've seen it a few times.
Yeah, talking about things like The Seven Samurai, which then led to a whole lot of films. I mean, that's kind of taken off of The Faculty, is essentially kind of a modern updating of things like The Body Snatchers and things. So yeah. it's done with that kind of it's not Kevin Williamson. I think he may have written the script, but it's Robert Rodriguez who directs it. But it's done with that kind of Kevin Williamson back when Scream was all the thing, and that kind of wit and humour to it that sort of teenagers have, which is what's very good about it.
And it brought us films like Dance of the Dead, Zombies in a High School, and movies like Detention, A Time-Travelling Bear. So they brought us films like that. You're going to laugh every single time I mention The Time-Travelling Bear. Yeah. And my other choice is on Saturday the 15th at 11:30 on ITV4. So I've actually gone for a bit of a mixture this week. 30 Days of Night. Again, it's a vampire film.
Both with Josh Hartnett.
Yeah, Josh Hartnett is in 30 Days of Night. It's a really grisly vampire film, but very well made. Very dark, very gory, but very tension-filled. There's loads of the vampires in it are some of the creepiest vampires I've seen since Max von Schreck, who played Nosferatu in the 1923 black and white Nosferatu. They are fantastically designed. It's a pity that the sequel is actually terrible. And the sort of like spin-off webisode thing that they made as well, Dark Days. Yeah. It's terrible. But yeah, the original, definitely watch it. It's on a bit late, but if you've got recording facilities, then record it and watch it, because it's a very well created vampire film.
Well, that's it for this week's show. Thank you for been listening to us live and joining us in chat. If you're listening to us anywhere else, obviously you can get in touch with us too. You can email us mondaymovieshow@yahoo.com. You can find us on our website mondaymovieshow.co.uk, which has a review up there, as I said, for the first time for me in a while, and we'll have other things like trailers and such. There is also, if you look on there, the uncut Deadpool trailer, which does look glorious, I have to say.
I was going to put the cut version on it, but then I thought people would not watch it. They would. Yeah.
No. You can also find us on Twitter. You can find us at Monday Movie Show. Stuart's on there at Cryptic Tadpole. I'm on there at AHDVD. And you can also find us on Facebook.com/Monday Movie Show. Feel free to check out a couple other places we have as well. Followingthenerd.com, who have their last couple of Thursday shows as their sort of the radio station they go through is actually going to be no longer transmitting as the end of this month. And possibly we may be making appearances on there depending on if Skype will let us or not. We have also
cabbage it.
Yeah.
You said let us, I said cabbage, forget it.
Also you have, as you heard the advert through the show, From Page to Screen, the From Page to Screen network, which is FromPage2Screen.com, which has several shows, including a UK one and a horror one, which you're involved in as well.
Yes.
So feel free to check out those and also give us some feedback.
Can I just make one quick sort of like shout out as well? I've got a friend who's called Jay Bevan, We used to support his charity, the Serum Foundation. Now he actually works as a personal trainer in Wales. So if that's your kind of thing, just find him out on Facebook. He's a fantastic person. He definitely knows what he's talking about. If you need any assistance regarding diets, any kind of workout programs, things like that, then definitely seek him out.
Maybe I should do that then.
But he was an ex-rugby player, and so he definitely knows what he's talking about when it comes to nutrition and his diets, and he is thinking about expanding it, because he lives in Wales, and he's predominantly does his training stuff in Wales, but he's thinking about expanding it to the web as well, where he has a website and he can help people that way. But definitely check him out.
Okay, that's it for this week's show. Just about to round up, after which we do Movie of the Week.
The Gift.
The Gift. See, given the ones that I've seen already this week and the ones that I reviewed this week, I'm gonna have to pick Water Diviner, though not for it being outstanding, just that it's not as bad as all the others.
Yeah, the best film this week was The Gift, and it's a pity that you hadn't seen it, because I think you probably would have named The Gift.
I do really want to see it as well. I just, again, not had time at the moment because of other things going on. But that's it for this week's show. Thank you for listening to us. There are actually a slew of films being released this week. We have Pixels is being released, and there's something else as well. And as well as this one, we've got a clip coming up of, which is Vacation, the kind of bringing it back, the whole National Lampoon series, which you had the original ones with Chevy Chase. Now you have his son being played by Ed Helm, who is basically playing the son of, the character from those films, going on his own vacation. So we'll leave you with a clip of that, which comes out next week, which we'll be reviewing then. Presumably on the Monday, but we never know for sure. Check out the website, mondaymovieshow.co.uk, to know for sure at the end of the week. So until next week, we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Look what Kevin did to my guitar.
Oh, not again.
God, you told Mom and Dad you have such a vagina.
Okay, enough. Now, young man, we talked about the bullying of your older brother.
That's right. We don't make fun of someone just because they're a little different from us.
I don't have a vagina.
I'm just saying that even if you did, it wouldn't be okay for Kevin to tease you about your vagina.
No, why are you making it sound like I have a vagina?
I know you don't have a vagina. I'm not doing that.
Kevin, apologize to your brother, please.
Fine, I'm sorry.
Now go to your room.
I'll stay in my room.
Kevin, hang on. There are a lot of boys who are born with vaginas. It's very hard for them.
Honey, why?
It's a teachable moment, hon. Gender fluidity, right? It's a very serious issue.
I'm not gender fluid.
It doesn't matter if you are. The point is, your mom and I would love you even if you were completely blank down there.